let's take a few minutes to link back to the 10 writing anchor standards. First, let's read each of the 4 categories in this graphic from top to bottom. Text types and purposes. Students will write argument, informative, explanatory, and narrative texts to inform, argue, and analyze. Production and distribution of writing. Students will use writing process strategies and technological tools to produce, refine, and present writing that is appropriate to task, purpose, and audience. Research to build and present knowledge. Students will use research and investigation to gather, critique, and analyze credible information that builds their knowledge for writing. And range of writing. Students will write routinely and extensively, probably daily, for varied writing tasks, purposes, and audiences. Now let's read them again from the bottom up. I'll let you do that. Range of writing, research to build and present knowledge, production and distribution of writing, and text types and purposes. What stands out to you? Why don't you write down your thoughts? You'll need to discuss these with a partner, so please pause the video while you complete this task. According to the Common Core Professional Learning modules, the 10 anchor standards in writing do not just complement each other, they need to be addressed instructionally as interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. Lessons developed for both short and extended time frames will cluster and address most of the writing standards simultaneously. Did you come up with a different takeaway? For the purposes of today's session focusing on academic language, we will be using argumentative text as a model for writing. Writing 1 requires students to write arguments to support claims in an analysis of substantive topics or texts using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. To connect back to the Session 3 focus on collaborative academic conversations, we're going to watch a video on small group writing. You're going to think about and take notes responding to the following questions. How does small group discussion prepare students for their writing task? What role does reading aloud play in the revision process? How does this strategy make work more manageable and effective for both teachers and students? I'm going to play the video, and on page 64, you'll have a place to write down your notes as you watch.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Rosenzweig, and I'm a 9th and 10th grade English teacher at Bronxville High School. And my lesson idea is something that I call small group writing. All right, we have not done any writing yet about Of Mice and Men, and that's been on purpose because I was sort of saving it up for today. Small group writing assignment is when kids work in either groups of 3 or sometimes I put 2 kids together to create a piece of writing that is persuasive and proves a point. In your group, write a response to the following questions. What ultimately is the message of Mice and Men? What essential truth does Steinbeck want to convey about the human experience through this work? Once they get the question, to me, maybe the most important part is that discussion of what are we going to prove, right? Because any persuasive piece of writing, that's what the writer is thinking about. Well, what ultimately do I want my reader to take away from this?
I think it was like he had to die though, because I don't think.
If he was staying alive, Curly would kill him, which would be better. He would
and
put
so
in
I
jail.
think even though killing him was sad, I feel like it was actually the right thing to do on George's part because otherwise he let him die happy.
It works best when you have that moment, for example, at the end of a novel. Okay, so what does this mean? What is this author trying to tell us? That they could actually have a real opinion about it, and it's organic. It's not something that they're being forced. They actually really care about it. I think that's the success of it more than maybe the product, because it is hard to write in a group. To me, the whole thing is the discussion that they have about what they're going to say and then how they're going to say it.
So I think they set a dream for themselves to have them, to give them something to look forward to.
And like keep them going through like everything that was tough. So yeah.
After that comes, what evidence are we going to use? What evidence is specific to my thesis?
We have one showing the hope of the dream. We have one showing how like he always kills things.
The activity is group writing, so they have to decide together what they're going to say and what evidence they're going to use. But one person is taking the notes and writing a first draft of it. What I told my students today is that you're probably going to need 2 pieces of evidence here to prove your thesis. So maybe we're looking at 1 longer paragraph or 2 smaller paragraphs. I don't like so much to give them to tell them how many paragraphs it has to be, because then all of a sudden they're sort of filling in blanks instead of letting something organically come from them.
Lenny's like immature or something. Immature. Or no, Lenny's actually
So they write the first draft, and then one of the students reads it out loud, which I think is an incredibly important thing when you're writing, to hear it out loud, because all of a sudden you're picking up stuff that doesn't sound right.
Working on a new branch brought comfort. Working on a new branch, other difficulties brought comfort.
If time allows, they can do a second draft, which I really like as well, because now they're editing together and proofreading together. And I think those are really important skills that sometimes, for students, because of time, get pushed aside.
I think we should take out unable, and like George was like held back.
George was held back by Lenny's actions.
When you're teaching writing, my God, you have to try to attack it from every angle that you can. I think any time that you can get the kids to verbalize their opinions and then to think about how do I translate that to writing, and they have to verbalize the writing part of it, there's very few times you actually are able to do that, because writing itself is a very lonely process. And often we feel very frustrated that what's in our heads can't get on the page. So this is just another angle at getting at that and at making it less scary. Thank you, guys. Awesome job today.
Thank you.
Good work. A great benefit from a teacher point of view. At the end of this lesson, I have 8 or 9 pieces of writing that I can really spend some time on, give some real feedback on the kids. We can use as a teaching tool and a building block. So when they do go home with those essays, they have more confidence.
Okay, so on page 64, take a couple minutes to jot down your responses to the questions and then share with a partner.